This is a redo of the Ventures Collection Domestic Albums, Volume 4. It looks like YouTube took off the original one I had on this, covering these albums, the original Volume 4, because I had some music. I was using some copyrighted music, so I'll change that this time. Uh, Here we are with In Space, the first album of the Mosrite era for the Ventures, and it was released in January of 1964. Um, and it did pretty well. It brought this is a pretty influential album among a lot of Ventures fans, and it was the one. And this Mosrite era is an era of the Ventures that really appealed to a lot of folks, and I think it primarily in Japan. Um, Although I think in Japan it really started with an album we'll see towards the end of this particular video. Um, they, but this In Space, uh, some consider it the Sgt. Pepper of instrumental albums. It is a really great album. It's the last album that Bob Reisdorf produced for the Ventures. It got up to number 27. In the charts on the LP chart, and the Ventures were at this time, well into establishing themselves as an album artist. Um, they have some great tunes on here. Not, there's some originals and then their versions of others. They're not really listed on the cover here, but we do see Noki playing this Mosrite guitar, and Don is playing a Mosrite, and the real detailed people will notice it's what we call a side jack. The plug would go in here. That was only done in the first, with the early Mosrite guitars, Ventures model guitars, I'll say. And so there's a song on here called "The Bat" that was from a Vincent Price 1959 movie. It's a theme to that. The great song "He Never Came Back" is another great Ventures original. It originally was titled "Monster Monkey." Then they have "Solar Race" on here. That's another great Ventures original. Its original name was called "Scotch," and it may have been released. Maybe there's an early version of that on the In the Vaults. I'm not recalling. But David Gates and Billy Strange are playing on this thing. Red Rhodes does some slide guitar, steel guitar effects. And there's some extra percussion from a guy from the Baja Marimba band. His name was Julius Wechter. And great tunes in here. Exploration and Terror, Fourth Dimension, which really was a redo, a retitling even, not even a redo, a retitling of the Frantics. Dalton's single. Frantics were another Northwest group, and they had a single called Werewolf that did pretty well. It hit number 83 in 1960, so the Ventures redid it on here. Leon Russell's also on here. And what do I see in my notes? Ray Lanham, who was another guitar player, and a guy named Bill Hinshaw on horns. It's there's more titles given on the front. One Step Beyond, the theme from that show. I think that show was already off the air by the time they put it out here. Twilight Zone. That may have been close to being off the air by the time this came out. Moonchild, all these titles some I hadn't mentioned. Love Goddess of Venus is, I believe that's a Don Wilson. That's the one he wrote for his mom, and it's so that's a nice tune. It's a ballad type of tune. This is a monaural copy. you know, by this time they're still doing monaural and stereo copies, and here's a stereo copy, but you can't hardly see it says stereo there. But nothing else very interesting about that one other than it is stereo, and this is an album you definitely want to hear in stereo. Here's another stereo copy, but it's this just gives you an idea of what the Dalton promo label, or these were the promotional yellow label copies. And this is the pattern of this label. You'll see the other label that's more common to this album later on here in a minute. But this label is this style of label is from the early. It had long been phased out by the time this album came out, but they still use that design for the promotional copies. This one says stereo, and you can read it now, and you have to wonder, why didn't they do that? Oh, by the way, the big titles here too: Out of Limits, Penetration, Penetration by the Pyramids, and just a great classic surf tune. And Out of Limits, the Marquettes, that was pretty much a studio group. The Marquettes were, that did that originally. And but that opens the album, and it's really a great version the Ventures do of it. And so this is the Sundazed version. Sundazed is written down here, and it's got the UPC on there. So this is obviously a more recent issue. And, I don't know when these came out. 2012, maybe earlier than that. What does it say on here? Yeah, no, it just gives the original. But I was going to show the early label on this. Well, I think I'll do it here because this also has colored vinyl, and that's fun to see. But it'll also be a repro of the label. It would be more common to this issue. So this is the label I'm talking about. This, it's not the same design as we just saw, and they did it in a kind of a clear vinyl version. I don't know that I've actually played. Whoops! I don't know that I've actually played this one, but so I can't tell you, does it sound as good as the old ones, and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I haven't. The truth is, I listen to the CDs more often these days, and but it does. Bill Irwin, who does the Sundazed versions of these, who released a number of Ventures albums on his Sundazed label, he was very good about going to the original master tapes when he mastered these. Now, whether he did any digital processing in there, that they leave ambiguous in their advertising. But the sound quality, I know from the CDs at least, is really excellent. This is a monaural English copy. Yeah. And it's got a different back cover. Here's a stereo English copy. Boy, I've got them all on this one. That's pretty cool. I don't know what this is about. Why do I have... Oh, different back cover. This is a later issue of this, and it's got some albums listed here that were put out long after the In Space was, so we know this is a later pressing. And this is not the group playing on the album. The group playing on the album, other than the session players that I mentioned, would be Don Wilson, rhythm guitar, Bob Bogle on bass. There's Don and Bob. And then Mel Taylor would be on drums on this album. These two individuals are not on here. They had Nokie Edwards on the lead guitar through most of this album, if not all of it. And but there's Jerry McGee and Johnny Durrell that joined the group in 1968. So that's interesting. This is a later English pressing, and they went with a psychedelic cover, not much color to it, but yeah, it's pretty neat. Here is the album that followed it. Dick Glaser produced this. This was his first production. with the Ventures after Bob Reisdorf left. And it's a wonderful album, Fabulous Ventures. And it's, this first tune you see here, Needles and Pins, that was, that's not really the Ventures on that. That's a studio group, although Noki is playing lead on it. And, it's the same track. The background track is the same track that's on Jackie DeShannon's version. And I got to meet Jackie DeShannon at Amoeba Records in Hollywood about, 15 years ago. And they were doing some release of a box set dedicated to Los Angeles music, and Jackie DeShannon was there, and the Standells were there. Jackie, I asked her, did she know that the Ventures had borrowed her background track? And she had no idea. She had never heard that story before. So it was just interesting. This came out in July of 1964. So they said, the Ventures were doing, an album every 3 or 4 months. This one took a little longer. Although I think some of these tracks are probably tracks that were left over from the In Space and sessions. And, the Ventures would often record more than they needed for an album. Walking with Pluto, that's an original, and you might expect maybe with a title like that, it was, something they had recorded for the In Space album, the previous album. 11th Hour also kind of sounds like, well, maybe that's one from the previous album. Scratchin' was originally called Hoot. Stayed on the charts for 19 weeks, pretty good. It got up to number 32, and so they're doing pretty well. In Space, not as well as In Space, got up in Space, what did I say, 29 or 27, I forgot. And but this one hit 32. I don't know what else I'll say. Danny Hamilton was, he's got a good tune on here. Is this the one, the album? Maybe it's not. No, I'm mixing it up. But I do know that Danny Hamilton toured with the Ventures during this time, and that's been noted. So what else would I say here? Journey to the Stars is a classic, and many surf bands still play that. That's a great one on this collection. Now, I don't know. I think the only reason I have this up, I don't know if it's going to come across in the video anyway. It's kind of more of a green, and this is more of a tan color. When you see this album, if you have a copy or you see it out there, you're going to see different shades of the way that cover comes off. Here's one. There's nothing else interesting about that one. That's just another mono copy. But this one, look at the coloring on the cover here. It's almost more brown. That's a stereo version. And I think, I don't know, maybe the sun gets to some copies and changes the coloring on it. Raven Blue, I love that tune. Pink Panther theme is great on here, and they would do that live. The Ventures did that. There's great live recordings of that. And here's the Mosrite guitar. Here, another little detail here. If I can bring it up without... notice that the angle of the neck cut here does not meet the angle of the pickup. This is the earliest prototype of the Ventures Mosrite guitar, Ventures model Mosrite guitar. Also in this area, it's completely blank. This was a Guild tailpiece. And Semmy Mosley just ground out the Guild name there. And so this is the prototype, and they did eventually correct that. You know, they made the neck and the pickup meet nicely. And that's just a little detail. It's the first album where the Mosrite is actually advertised. When they had Mosrites, when they were holding Mosrites on the In Space album, they didn't tell anybody what those guitars were. So fans were writing in and saying, "What kind of guitar are those guys? What are the Ventures playing in that picture?" And so another stereo copy. I don't know why. If there was anything of interest on that one. Is this the? No, this isn't it. Just another stereo. I have a, I see that. It's one of the more common albums you'll find if you're collecting Ventures albums, and so I upgrade. I find the best copy I can. This is the same album, Fabulous Ventures, but they're using a later album cover here, and it's got a different back cover. Actually, it says Fabulous Ventures, but I see it's got very different tunes. It's got Whack Whack on here. It's got Snoopy versus the Red Baron. This is actually a compilation titled, so this is not the In Space album. Louie Louie's on there. Mod East, they call it Este. So, yeah, this is apparently a compilation that was given the Fabulous title and then the Knock Me Out cover, but those songs that are listed on the back aren't even on Knock Me Out. We'll see Knock Me Out at the end of this video. This is the Sundazed issue with the colored vinyl. And the Dalton label. But a nice red vinyl issue here, and that's pretty neat. Sundays did a great job of copying reproducing the original album artwork, and then they did put their name down here, and they have a UPC symbol there. And here's Walk Don't Run Volume 2. This album did very well for the Ventures. Got up to number 17 and stayed in the charts for 24 weeks. October of 1964. Right now it's 2020. So we're talking, 56 years ago. And we're in October of 2020. So, Leon Russell is playing on House of the Rising Sun, which they did. They also titled Walk Don't Run 64. That they had a hit twice with Walk Don't Run, and this 64 version, Noki kind of arranged that and made it a different, kind of a heavier version, and it hit the charts again. It did great. And Steve Douglas is on sax through a Leslie speaker on a tune called Rap City on here. And there's some great tunes. I asked Don about this album. Actually, it wasn't I was in a studio, and a friend of mine was helping the Ventures in production of one of their albums around in the late 90s, and he was talking. It was his favorite album. I always liked the album, and now I like it even more. It's just grown on me. But he asked Don about it, and Don Wilson of the Ventures said, "Well, this album has too many 1-4-5s, meaning the chord structure is a 3-chord structure that's very common in rock and roll. Every Chuck Berry song, pretty much, is what you call a 1-4-5." And so all of these songs, the exception of House of the Rising Sun and Walk Don't Run 64, but most of the rest of these tunes, Night Train is a total 1-4-5. Actually, the more I look at this, that's the only one I can see on the cover that's a 1-4-5. So, but I know there's a lot of them on here. Night Walk is one, and let's see, Peach Fuzz is another 1-4-5. But here's this Danny Hamilton tune, Diamond Head. That is a great song and did very well for the Ventures. Popular in Japan, very popular. The this album was very popular for them in Japan. I don't have chart numbers for that, but I do know it was one of the big albums for them. And House of the Rising Sun was, you know, very loved song over there, and you know, so it's a great album. I say a navy blue mono mint copy. That's what this one is. It's a monaural copy. Here's a stereo one. Oh, with the I always like these promo copies. And here's another stereo edition. I guess this is, I only have it because it's not a promo, and so I have to have, you know, I want the different labels if I can get them. This one says it's the dark blue solid Dalton label. That's similar to the, it's not similar, it's the same label I showed earlier in the video, the dark blue label. Stereo copy, very nice copy. This is going to be the this will be the sun-dazed version. I can tell by the coloring of the background. Oh, by the way, this is a, you know, if you, the first Ventures album that was called Walk Don't Run was the Ventures' very first album. Here they are playing, holding Mosrites on the cover. They're actually on the cover of this album, and they weren't on the cover of the first Walk Don't Run album. You'll see the video #1 for that story. But this was Don Wilson's wife. Here's Don Wilson with his underarm stain here in the picture. It was, oh, that's the thing. There are other copies where they airbrushed that out. And then, so it's nice and clean there. But here he is with a, you know, with the underarm stain. And there's Mel and Noki and Bob playing a very cool blue Ventures model bass. Nancy Bacon is her name, and she had done a lot of modeling at the time. I think she's in some movies, and her only husband was Don, but they weren't married for very long. And she's written a book about her experiences in Hollywood. It's pretty popular. Why do I have this one in here? I do not know. This is, maybe there's a, oh, yes, I do know. This has an interesting label. I've never seen Walk Don't Run Volume 2 on the Liberty label. So this is the album, as I say, sold very well, so it must have gotten a third repressing, if not more than that. And so that's why this one's on here. And here, oh, here's a late 60s pressing with a different album cover. And it's different players, as I showed on the Fabulous, I think it was, also had this situation, or maybe it was in Space, where it had two people who aren't actually on the album at all that joined the Ventures in 1968. And here's yet another of that cover. This was pressed in the 80s. It's an abridged version, 10 songs only. I took 2 songs off. And but it's really good vinyl, and so I like the sound of that one. That's a good one. This is a German issue, and the German copies, if you can find them, are really great. Yeah, they're excellent sound quality, excellent vinyl, and there's the label for Liberty in Germany, and this is a stereo German edition copy, so I made sure to get that one. This is a different label, or a different cover altogether, on another, I'm pretty sure, is this German issue? Yeah, printed in Germany. So let me make sure these others were, yeah, the others that I showed were Germany as well. So I don't know what came first, which maybe this is a repressing, and I'm guessing it probably is. It's got some staining over here, but you know, it's good quality sound and a great, there's Mel sitting on a throne there, they called that, for his drums, his beautiful Marine Pearl Gretsch drums. Nice live shot of the Ventures. So Walk Don't Run Volume 2. This one is, I mentioned my producer friend, a friend who was helping the Ventures in production of some albums in the late, just going up to 2000. He did co-produce the acoustic rock album, and his name was Quince. Now, he passed away some 8 years ago now, and his wife had given me the opportunity to get some of the records that he had, and so I did, and these are all signed Mel, Noki, Bob, and Don, and I signed 2 Quints, so it's they're nice. It's a nice copy to have. Nothing interesting on the back cover. This is another very popular Ventures album called Knock Me Out, and this one it also came out in 1964, and actually no, this one came out in February of '65, so yeah, it came out a little later. Love Potion number 9's on here, and Slaughter on 10th Avenue is a really great tune on here. Tomorrow's Love. Some of these copies have Love Goddess of Venus, not, which was off the In Space, and not Tomorrow's Love. And so that was just a pressing accident, and it's not uncommon if you've got one like that. It's not like you have a major rarity that, where is the song Tomorrow's Love listed on here? Maybe not on the front cover. There's Tomorrow's Love. It's a wonderful original track, and you want to make sure you get a copy that has that correct track, because it's a great track. But anyway, so some have the wrong recording on there. Pretty Woman, Mariner number 4, wonderful original tune. I really like that one. Yeah, so this one did pretty well as well. It got to number 31 and stayed for 24 weeks. So another pretty, that's 4 albums in a row they're doing really well with. And I Feel Fine, they're covering the Beatles. I'm not sure if that's the first time they covered the Beatles, the Ventures. I'm trying to remember if there's a Beatle tune they recorded before this. Mel plays some great drums on a tune called Gone, Gone, Gone. I think that was an Everly Brothers track when they were on the Warner label. Anyway, it's it is a very popular album. I know it was also very popular with the Japanese audience. Sha-La-La, that's Manfred Mann did that song in England, and it says Taylor Mosley, but it's not Mel Taylor on that one. This is a Japanese copy. Now that I have the Japanese ones on on a separate video, so I'll not say anything more on that one. This is a promo copy in demonstration only, and it had the play guitar ad in there. I've shown that came out around this time. This may be the first album on which you would get this insert advertising the play guitar with the Ventures series. Very interesting. Knock Me Out with not a very good cover from England. There's an English copy, a later pressing. Here's a Knock Me Out repressing cover, different cover, but this one, where did this one, was this the Australian one? Yeah, this is Australian copy of Knock Me Out. So they decided to use this was the cover that was used on a Walk Don't Run repress in the United States. Here is a copy from Mexico on the MuseArt label. It's a pretty nice copy. And the unfortunate thing, it says here it's stereo. It's actually rechanneled stereo. It's a not very good sound. The whole album is done in rechanneled, where they take a mono recording and they put a little echo between the speakers. They delay one of the speakers a little bit, and they put a lot of treble on one, a lot of bass on the other. So it's fake stereo, in other words, and not a great sounding record. That pressing. This is the English monaural copy of Knock Me Out, and with the white banner that they like to put on theirs, and cover's a little bit different, the back cover I should say. EMI Records, a Liberty label. Bird Rockers, the Great Ventures original. Sha La La, I think I mentioned, and She's Not There, Rod Argent for the Zombies wrote that. And When You Walk in the Room here is a great Jackie DeShannon, her song. She wrote that one. It's a great tune. And the Ventures would do Love Potion No. 9 live, and Noki would really burn on that one. And it was, yeah, so they would take it a notch up when they did that one live. Anyway, yeah, EMI Records, you know, that's the way, that's who had the rights to put it out in England. Anyway, that's it for this edition, and we'll see you on the next edition. We'll feature more Mosrite era albums, the era where the Ventures were playing the Mosrites.